Okay, we're gonna move from bats to birds now, and for our next talk, we'll hear an update about our land bird populations in the One Tam area from Mark Dettling. He's an avian ecologist at Point Blue Conservation Science, where he's been working since 2006 when he started as an intern. So I'll turn it over to Mark.
Great, thanks, Bill. I'll just get my screen shared. And I think we should be good to go. It's really great to be here, and I appreciate being invited to give a talk about birds. And just a quick background, I think probably most folks, what's going on here? Okay, there we go. Most folks know of Point Blue Conservation Science, but just a quick reminder of who we are. Is that a conservation organization that's founded in 1965 as the Point Reyes Bird Observatory for the longtime Marin residents that might know us. We have at this point about 160 seasonal and staff biologists, and our mission is to conserve birds, other wildlife, and ecosystems through science, partnership, and outreach. A lot of the work I'll be talking about today is kind of based out of our Marin field station, which has been collecting data continuously since 1966. Also like to just say that, I'm talking about one specific thing that Point Blue is working with in the kind of One Tam kind of general area, but within the area of focus for One Tam, as well as kind of just outside those borders, we do work like monitoring northern spotted owls, tidal marsh songbirds and rails along the bay shore, bird banding, which we have a site within the focal area at Redwood Creek, and then nest searching and monitoring at our Marin field station, again, just outside of the area of focus. And then the kind of more thing that data that I'm going to be talking about today is from our land bird point count surveys, and land birds being birds that use terrestrial ecosystems. So mostly kind of songbirds, but also just woodpeckers and other things that use terrestrial ecosystems. We have surveys that are done with the Marin Municipal Water District. And then what I'll be talking about more in focus today is our work with the National Park Service Inventory and Monitoring Program. We also do other surveys kind of directly with the One Tam group on different kind of habitats that haven't been surveyed, and we want to make sure we get bird surveys in those areas as well. So just a little background then also on the National Park Service Inventory and Monitoring Program. It's a system that all the parks throughout the country, they are split up into different networks, and then we have a Bay Area network, and they set different what they're called vital signs for each of their areas, and that's the natural resources that they want to focus on. And one of them that they wanted to focus on was birds, and working with Point Blue developed a monitoring plan. And birds are very important as just a general natural resource. We want to keep bird populations healthy, but also they're a great indicator of the entire ecosystem health. The plants and insects and things they eat, and the clean air and clean water that they need definitely reflect the health of the ecosystem. So the bird surveys that we developed with the National Park focus on riparian corridors, and so these are areas along rivers and streams. And those areas are really great because they have a high diversity of birds, as well as usually a larger abundance of birds. So it gives us a good, we can't cover everything, and so that's a good way to cover a lot of the different bird species that use kind of Marin County and the One Tam area. The couple objectives that we did develop with the park were one that we're looking at population trends throughout the year, and then another one that is reproductive success and annual survival. I'll be more focusing on that first objective, looking at population trends. And then also, again, with the background of the inventory monitoring program, there are lots of other vital signs that are included, and they all pretty much are used to detect trends over short and long term. They're looked to help direct other research and may help direct management activities that need to be implemented. There's also a great opportunity to compare to regional or national trends. and then also can be integrated with other research and monitoring in the area, which again, with this One Tam collaboration with all of the different research going on, there's great opportunities for that. With Point Blue, we've, even previous to being involved with the inventory monitoring program, we've been doing lots of bird surveys throughout the park, National Park, Point Reyes, starting in the 1990s, also in Golden Gate National Recreation Area. So we've got over 20 years of data for those point count surveys, and I'll get into that, what those are in a moment. Also doing that mist netting, so which is bird banding, so capturing birds, and that's where we get that reproductive success kind of information from. The formal inventory and monitoring program began in 2011 in Point Reyes and Golden Gate. And also within the kind of Bay Area network is Pinnacles National Park, which we added in 2015. And so these are all these riparian bird surveys, point counts mostly. So a point count is a survey method where you go back to a single point repeatedly during a year, but also then over the course of years, and count all the birds that you hear and see. And so it gives you great information about the species of birds and also the numbers of birds. And then also within inventory monitoring, we do that mist netting and banding. And though not part of the inventory monitoring, we also do nest searching. That's mostly at our Marin field station, which is in the southern end of the Point Reyes National Seashore, just outside of Bolinas. And so you can see the map here just briefly shows kind of where those point counts are for the inventory monitoring. We'll be focused on the coastal Marin sites. And you can see most of them are just outside the area of focus, but we do have points in the Redwood Creek watershed, which is definitely within that area. We work in the national parks, national recreation area. We have some points also in state parks and Marin County parks. And so because this is kind of a lightning talk, I did need to kind of quickly jump into the results. And what we decided to do most recently is to look at the trends in our data, so in protected areas, and see if we're seeing trends that are better than in the region. And I'll just go back once. And so on the map all the way to the right, you can see this cross-hashed region, which is the coastal California bird conservation region. So it's a region where the bird community is relatively similar to itself. And so what we did was compare the trends in the species that we had enough data for to those trends of that entire area. So the data from us was that point count data, and the data from that region was breeding bird survey data, which is a national citizen science project run by the USGS. And the things, there's a lot to look at here, but the things that I do want to point out is those green boxes, kind of birds, species within those green boxes have population trends that are better in the national parks than in the region as a whole. And then yellow would be where the region as a whole has a better population trend. So better meaning kind of more positive, basically. So we can see of the 14 species that we were able to do this analysis, the majority of them were doing better in these protected areas. And that's great news. It's not something that we have a lot of information on. We assume that protected areas are protecting bird populations, but these long-term monitoring projects are really needed to test that hypothesis. Again, don't have a ton of time, but we weren't able to kind of pull out any bigger trends of, like, for example, migratory birds being more or less benefiting from the protection of the lands. We're working on hopefully getting this kind of work published very soon. We've just submitted it. And so hopefully we'll be able to talk about it a little bit more in detail at maybe another summit in the future. I also do want to mention, though, that we were saying that we can often combine data, and Point Blue also has work that is these point count surveys that is not focused on that riparian habitat, but is in the Marin Municipal Water District lands. And recent analysis done by Renee Cormier shows that most of the species were either had stable populations or were increasing. But we do have 12% of those species that they were able to, I think there were about 40 species that they did this analysis for. About 12% were showing some declines. So these, not universal trends across all bird species do require us to look a little bit deeper into why that might be and what is affecting those particular species. And then very briefly looking forward, we're going to hopefully continue our partnership with the inventory monitoring program and One Tam, continue to build these long-term data sets. They become more and more valuable as the years go by. And we'll look for opportunities to publish these results and also work with land managers to kind of implement any changes that need to be made, or to just continue to see how their areas are performing in terms of bird populations. With that, there's lots of partners to thank, and I won't name them all out, but you can see here we work with kind of everybody in the One Tam community, and we're very happy to continue to do that. So with that, I'll say thank you.
Thank you so much, Mark. Again, we unfortunately don't have time for questions, but I will say that a lot of the questions that I'm seeing are about where people can see or understand more about the data. So if you look in the if you click on the answered questions tab, we pasted in a link to the Marin Data Explorer and places where you can also see some of the data on the Point Blue website. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much.